Time now to get more with Geico. Eagles, Ravens in the late window. It's the game of the week. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, and Tracy Wolfson will have the call. Back here with Pete, Darius, and Logan. I'm Tommy. So, guys, as our friend Chris Hassel alluded to, you're the running back. You talk about revenge games. It's a revenge season if you throw these two guys plus Josh Jacobs into the mix and what they've been able to do. Darius, I'll give you first word here because as we're standing right now, Saquon Barkley coming off the game that he had, and now he's tied for the third shortest odds to win MVP. Usually you only talk about quarterbacks, but here we are talking about running backs.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is a quarterback award, but yeah, him, Derrick Henry, they both could be in this conversation, and both of these running backs, you look back on this, hindsight is 20/20, but a lot of people weren't trying to hand out big money to running backs. They were kind of a dying breed almost. Now, both of them, you got Saquon going to Philly with this offensive line. It's a perfect recipe. And then you got Derrick Henry going to Baltimore with all those different personnel groupings they throw at you. And then both of them have quarterbacks that force defenders to be honest in a run game. That's an extra guy we have to keep our eyes on the edge. You hold that backside defender when you have runners like that. So they take the pressure off each other, those dynamic running backs, with these dynamic quarterbacks that can use their legs as well. But these offensive lines, man, they're also true stars in this game. Stoutland University and Philadelphia, and a lot of moving parts coming into the year in that Baltimore Ravens offensive line. They both been ground and pound.
Logan, what do you think? What do you attribute the Saquon Barkley experience for Eagles fans so far this year, Jim?
I mean, it's dynamic. I play with both these guys, Saquon and Derrick, and I have so much to say about them both. I'm just trying to wrap it into one little segment here. Listen, playing with Derrick Henry has done this. Derrick Henry in Tennessee alone, in 2020 rushed for 2,000, in 19 rushed for 1,500, in 22 rushed for 1,500, has 1,300. So he's done this time and time again. Derrick Henry's one of the most dominant, might be the most dominant player running back I've ever played with, because that's what he does. But how Saquon does it with his flash and his class, the skill set on how he gets his yards, how he makes it look, Derrick wears you down over time. Yeah. Time and time again. But the moment I played with Saquon Barkley, I left the Tennessee Titans and joined the New York Giants. The first practice, I think I called my dad and said, Saquon might be the best player I've ever seen in practice. Like, the skill set and the flash of how he does it makes that 1,500 yards look a lot more exciting. He has everything that you need to be a dynamic running back. And I think, to go off topic again, I think Lamar Jackson is the best player in the NFL in terms of skill set, running and throwing. There's no one like him in the NFL. He's got some Josh Allen to him and some Saquon to him. But Saquon might be more valuable to his team than any other player. You add him to the Eagles, you see what he's able to do. They are the legit Super Bowl contenders. And if they don't have Saquon on this team this year, I don't know if the Eagles make the playoffs. I don't know if they're anywhere near the same type of caliber. He took them over the top. His ability, his skill set is so valuable, and I hope that the MVP means that. I hope it means value to the franchise. And now having Derrick and Lamar on the same team hurts their value because they're both so great. But Saquon, to the Eagles, I would not be surprised if he won MVP this year.
He's having a great season. He's a great running back. Would you rather have Saquon on the team right now or Jalen Hurts? Legitimate question.
I'd rather have Saquon.
I'm always going to go to quarterback.
I'm going to go to quarterback.
Yeah, you got to go.
That's why the quarterbacks win the award. I mean, they are the most valuable. If you're a good quarterback, you're the most valuable player. Just like on the Ravens. Derrick Henry's a phenomenal running back. Lamar Jackson's the guy that makes it all go. He's the MVP. That's why quarterbacks win MVP. I'm not taking away from them being running backs because they're both great players and on their way to Derrick Henry's a slam dunk for Canton, and Saquon Barkley's on his way. But the quarterback makes it all go. That's why they're the MVPs. That's why they always win MVPs. I'm glad you made a point about the offensive lines. Derrick Henry's, Saquon Barkley's averaging 4.2 before contact. Think about that. 4.2 yards before contact. In New York, it was like 2 point something. That's what that offensive line and having a threat to run the football means to Saquon Barkley. And we're going to break him down later on the show. But the guy's phenomenal. I'm with you. He's a phenomenal running back. Can catch it, can run it, can do everything. But that offensive line and the way they play have created just giant holes for him to run through. He's taken advantage by making the safety mitts and turning them into big plays. but that offensive line really doesn't get the due it deserves. They went out and got Mekhi Becton, who was a failed tackle, and put him in at right guard. And they're mauling dudes in the run game. So I think there's a lot of little things that play.
I want to counter that. I can't think of an offensive line that gets more due than the Eagles. From Jason Kelce, the tush push. We talk about this offensive line for the last 4 years. That's all we've talked about. Is the Eagles'
going into this season, they made a change at center and brought a right guard in who's a failed right tackle, and they're still doing the same thing.
DeAndre Swift had a lot of yards before contact as well. He looked good in the system. He don't look like Saquon. They're not talking about running back and MVP conversation with like you would with Saquon. I'm not taking away.
Saquon's been great. I'm saying he's in the conversation.
A dynamic player on offense makes everyone's job a lot easier. Jalen Hurts' job got a lot easier. Last year, teams that played against the Philadelphia Eagles with no Saquon, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and the O-line with Kelce in it, the Eagles lost how many in a row at the end? The Bucs made them look like what in the playoffs?
Well, you can flip it over and say, well, Saquon, what did he do when he was with the Giants?
He was injured.
But when he was on the field, he wasn't putting up those kind of numbers.
He was injured. He had 2 Pro Bowls in the Giants, right, in 5 years. He had an ACL and another in recovery
But it wasn't this special.
But all I'm saying is that...
That was the only thing, though.
What is the addition? The Eagles lost Jason Kelce and gained Saquon. And look how much better they looked than the 8-loss Eagles last year that were just dysfunctional. And that's what a great player can do with Jalen Hurts. That's how much easier he makes that job. And I've been on teams with Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill. And Ryan Tannehill got a bag. And Ryan Tannehill looked really good. Ryan Tannehill was leading the league in QBR because of Derrick Henry. Now, would I take Ryan Tannehill or Derrick Henry?
Derrick Henry. Yeah.
Exactly. So it always starts with who is my best player and how is the offense built around it. Of course you need a quarterback. Of course you need somebody. Christian McCaffrey helped Brock Purdy's development a lot early in his career, and that's why some quarterbacks don't work out. They don't have the players around them. Saquon makes any quarterback's job a lot easier when he's healthy.
True.
And they can block him.
Not going to argue that, but 4.2 before contact is pretty impressive.
That was the only question with Saquon since coming into the league. You don't go number 2 overall as a running back without super elite, unique traits like Saquon has. And that's the difference between getting through those holes. And like that first play in the second half last week against the Rams, that's a 15, 20-yard game for most running backs. It's 70 to the house with a guy like Saquon. And not only in the run game, but what he is in the pass game. Yeah. When he splits out, when he's coming out of the backfield, when you just dump it down from a 4-yard gain, he turns it into a 24-yard gain. That is a huge, huge difference for defenses that have to line up against his offense. And let's not forget about A.J. Brown. Like, A.J. Brown is probably the best one-on-one receiver right now on the outside. So coming into a game, you got to take care of 11 on the outside, and you better know where 26 is down after down after down. But that offensive line, I think you said it. We do talk about them a bunch, but they deserve that credit. They have been the best offensive line for a long time.
Who would you pick right now if you had Saquon or Derrick Henry right now for your team?
Saquon.
It'll be interesting. You would think that Philly offense, looking at that Baltimore defense, is just sort of salivating, looking that they can do it. Devontae Smith, by the way, questionable for this game. If we talk about the other side of the Philly unit, defensively, Pete, because since they bye, they have been fantastic. So how have they improved? What has stood out to you about this unit?
The corner play. I mean, they're covering people and adjusting to Vic Fangio's scheme takes time. You guys know you got to get acclimated to that. There are a lot of guys that don't like it, but they get acclimated to it. This group has gotten acclimated to it in large part because they're young. I mean, Mitchell is playing at an unbelievably high level at corner. You know, DeJean is playing good corner as well. So you add those guys into the mix, all of a sudden you're covering people. And then when Jalen Carter plays the way Jalen Carter can play, he is a true game wrecker. You know, the knock on him is he didn't always do that. He didn't always do that last year. This year he's doing it, and that's the biggest difference. You have a game wrecker in the middle line. Zach Bond has been one of the most underrated players in this league. They took an outside linebacker, moved him into the inside, and he's been dominant inside. So I think you add it all up, and I think that's the reason they're so much better.
I like the last point you made about Zach Bond because that Vic Fangio defense, it's DB friendly. It's a too-high shell most of the game. That can protect some of the bigger passing plays if those guys know how to play smart. And those young DBs are playing very smart. But when you play a too-high defense, you got to be really good at up front. You got to have Jalen Carter up front. You got to have some linebackers that know how to play. Linebackers that know how to read run and pass, know how to get back on pass plays, and know how to fill in a run. Zach Bond's a guy I did not know coming in before. I wasn't familiar with his game. But now that I'm seeing it, guys like that you don't have on paper, I know they brought a Devin White in to do that, right? And Devin White didn't work out there. But I think that linebacker play, stepping that up, they're not going to get the attention. You're going to talk about Jalen Carter, you're going to talk about Cooper DeJean, you're going to talk about Quinyon Mitchell, you're going to talk about the flashy first-round picks. But I think Zach Bond in the middle of that defense, those linebackers have a big responsibility in those two high defenses.
Yeah, he in the Kobe Dean. The Kobe Dean is playing well. When I watch this defense as a whole, and I'm sure you're the same way, like I watch how they communicate. Like how since probably week 4, week 5, creating turnovers, communicate, everybody been on the same page. Just the little things. Emotion comes down. Cooper DeJean is a rookie, making those communications to the safety, to the corner. So that lets me know that they're well coached. And then you talk about Jalen Carter up front. When he's playing fully motivated, he is the best 3 technique, I believe, in the National Football League. And that, coming out in the draft, they were saying he was the best player, and it was the off-the-field issues that you were worried about. But just watching those guys play as a unit, as the season goes on, you can see him get more and more comfortable. Reed Blankenship, CJ, GJ, like all these guys across the board have been great. I am concerned with losing Brandon Graham because he's not one of the first guys you think about in that defense, but when it comes especially a game like this when you're facing Derrick Henry, Patrick Ricard, and those big boys up front, 55, he always did that dirty work week in and week out, so I'm interested to see who steps up in his replacement.
Darius Slay as well. I know if he's going to go or not, I'm not sure.
Okay. But need a quick prediction on the game. Who wins? Let's go around. Pete, start with you.
I'm taking the Ravens. Look, their run defense is pretty good. They're bad on the pass defense, but I think they'll be able to limit the run game a little bit. I'll take the Ravens.
I go Eagles, spot touchdown.
Break the tie. What do you think?
I'm going to go with the Ravens. They got 2 of the best players in the world. Eagles got Saquon, but the Ravens have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson.
Well, Slay, we'll see that his absence there, and the Ravens are laying the 3 at home there in that big game late afternoon window. Want to remind everybody about pushing the pile. Scan the QR code with Kyle Long and Mike Renner, your co-host, with a weekly visit from Pete Prisco every Tuesday with his Power Rankings.